Rise and shine, it's Monday morning. Time to get that mental flex. Motivation style in 3, 2, 1.
Brought to you live from the ccmindiana.com studios. It's time for Money Maker Monday.
Hey, Greg Thomas here, coming your way. It's been a long day since we had a Money Maker Monday. Want to get you something to nitro charge those cells to get you run through a brick wall this week. 3 things that are going to make you assess from a good place. When I say assess from a good place, I'm talking about looking inward, seeing what you're made of, taking inventory, right? A lot of times when I'm speaking on this, assessing from a good place, or where I like to lead in is like, don't self-assess from I Suck Island. What happens when you self-assess from I Suck Island? You end up talking to a volleyball. You're not feeling good about yourself at all. I think it's counterintuitive. We were not taught how to assess from a good place, and you have to be able to do that, And that brings me to point number 1, right? We're like trees. If you're not growing, you're dying, right? So we have to figure out, how can we continue to grow? That's a good question for a lot of us. We're asking that, but I think it's natural to go to the negative, right? We got to be able to feel good about what we're doing and looking at, hey, you know what? I'm not perfect at everything. I haven't arrived anywhere. I see it in the business all the time, the mortgage business, the real estate business, all these different sales professions and careers and everything, where people get to a point where they feel like they're entitled, okay? Or also they feel like they've arrived. And that's not what we're trying to do here. We're trying to make it better. Again, you're like a tree. If you're not growing, you're dying. We got to figure out a way to keep things just going growth mode 100% of the time. And then the money rolls in, okay? Like, you're not focused on the money because you're hammering down on the process, and that's where it's at.
When you do the right thing, money shows up.
That's it. You can't focus on the outcome. You focus on the outcome, that's all it's going to be to you. The money, it's not even about the money. It's about being good at something, about taking pride in what you do and just being ready to run through a brick wall. Be like, hey, I take so much pride in what I do. I know that I can bring value and help you do whatever you're trying to do.
And that's the big thing. Price over value, 2 very different things.
Exactly. You have to be able to bring it, and it's okay to feel confident in what you're doing because your preparation's there. Like that tree's just doing what it's doing. It's not shining away from the sun, so you got to take it in too and feel like you got to give yourself every opportunity to grow mentally and physically. All right, so if you're like a tree, if we're not growing, we're dying, right? The next one is probably the biggest pill I choked down this year. Have grace with yourself. Like, if you can't be okay with you making mistakes, you're not going to try to grow. Everything you're going to do, you're going to get paralysis by analysis, thinking about what could go wrong versus just owning it and jumping on it and roll with the punches no matter what happens, but at least you're in the game. You're not on the sideline sitting there trying to critique everybody, trying to be that ref like some of our family members on Sunday. They're like, man, I should be calling these games. Don't be on the sideline. You can't, but you're going to be on the sideline if you can't reflect and look in, like, man, you know what? I made a mistake and that's okay. I made a mistake and that's okay. It's not when we make mistakes, it's how we handle them, all right? So, we used to hear these things from mom all the time. Don't make something that wasn't your fault by the way you handle it. Now, that's a little different here, but at the same time, if it's your fault, own it. We're smart creatures, human beings. People can pick up on that noise when you're like, everybody's fault but mine. That's just not the way it's going to go. If you have grace with yourself, that it's a mistake because you learned something from it, right? And you're not going to beat yourself up because what's done is done. A great friend of mine, a mentor, dropped that on me. He's like, Greg, I think you just got to cut yourself some slack. So we all do. We all have to cut ourselves some slack because you're actually stunting your growth when you don't. So point number 2, have grace with yourself. And the final one, you have to take inventory. I joke around and call it no more poser. You see you. You know what you're looking at in the mirror. You know when you're faking it or you're putting up a front. You got to be able to have honesty within yourself if you're going to make it happen and go there and make it rain in your career, whatever it may be. You're sitting there thinking you want to take on something, take on the world. If you can't see yourself for yourself and be honest with yourself, be like, hey man, I'm kind of being a poser right now. That's going to stunt your growth. So 3 things: you're growing or you're dying. Have grace with yourself. And don't be a poser, right? That's some old school stuff. But you see you, run through a brick wall. Let's go make it happen this week. Catch you next time. Want to take a quick minute to thank our sponsor, ccmindiana.com, for all your mortgage needs. Very competitive, ready to rock, ready to help you be a pre-approved buyer that can compete. Ready to get pre-approved for your next mortgage? Stop by ccmindiana.com and see how we can help.